time, yeah, making a difference, one cup at a time. Tea time. So be sure to grab your tea, grab a seat, and tune in to Miss Liz. Tea time, making a difference, one cup at a time. Tea time, yeah. Tea time.
Well, welcome to Tea Time. Miss Liz here. Yes, it is not a Thursday, it is a Tuesday, and we have a special guest in the house today. We have Georja Umano in the house, and she's going to be talking about animal activists, her project, and we're also going to be talking about her book, Terriers in the Jungle. So we're going to be talking about a lot of stuff, but the most important thing we're going to be talking about is treasure every animal. That's her tea. And we're going to serve a different type of tea. So if you haven't subscribed to Miss Liz's YouTube channel, run on over, click to that little doorbell, and be notified when all these incredible tea times come up. And you can listen to them in your home, at a picnic, in your car, all of that good stuff. So before we get started, let's get the disclaimer out there. Let's get some bio out there. And then let's get Georgia in here and let's spill some good cup of tea in a different style, Miss Liz's style. Disclaimer for Miss Liz's Tea Time live show. Miss Liz myself is going live using StreamYard. Before leaving a comment, please grant StreamYard permission to see your name at StreamYard.com. Please be advised that the content brought forward for any Tea Time show hosted by myself, Miss Liz, is always brought forward in good faith. However, may bring forward dialogues and opinions that are not representative of my platform. The facts and information are perceived to be accurate at the giving time of airing. All Tea Time guests and audience participants are responsible for using their good judgment and taking any action that may relate to the discussion. The content brought forward may include discussions for some where they may be emotionally at risk. It is significant to know that the show is engaging in discussion forums only to offer and inspire awareness and connection and is not providing therapeutical advice. If you have any questions about the disclaimer or the panelist discussion, you may freely contact me, Miss Liz, through my email at bookingmissliz@gmail.com. Moving forward, should you choose to voluntarily participate in today's show in any aspect, I myself, Miss Liz, welcomes you. And should you decide that this show is not made for you at this time, I respect those wishes and will see you at a later show at a later date and time. And this week, we have a special week. We have a Tea Time today, tomorrow, and Thursday. We have two. So we got a full week this week. So a lot of surprises coming up. So now a little bit on my guest. Georja Umano is an animal activist who has organized, spoken, and written about animals and animal causes in the U.S., Italy, and Kenya, especially in the fields of elephants and wildlife conservation. She is also a film, TV, and theater actress and stand-up comedian, as well as teacher and journalist. She has earned a BA in English Literature at LeMoyne College and an MA in Educational Theater of New York University. Her acting career started in New York, and she has always leaned towards comedy. She appears on all the episodes of a sitcom with Ed Asner, Off the Rack, played the title character in an award-winning short film, The Godmother, and was nominated for awards for her theatrical performance in Kaballah with Avery Shriver. She has performed stand-up comedy in Los Angeles, San Diego, and in 10 other states. Things changed when she got a dog and quickly became an avid animal advocate and featured journalist. She produced and starred in a cable show web series with her dog, The Georgia and Marcella Show. Soon afterwards, she got involved with elephants. She went to Africa 6 times. The last time she decided to move there, bringing her 2 rescue dogs along with her husband, author Gerald Everett Jones, in her new novel, Terriers in the Jungle. She wrote about many of their adventures, including her plans to create the Elephant Matriarch School. I'm going to get her to say that word because I don't think I'm saying it right. In Kenya. The novel is narrated by her dogs. As a young woman, Georgia experienced a vivid past life regression in which she was a young child whose mother was killed by an elephant hunter, and she was raised by elephants. When she was staying in Kenya, she realized that in that past life, she actually was an elephant. Now she knows lots of elephants in Kenya, has adopted many orphan elephants, and hugs many of them. Terrier in the Jungle won first prize in animal fiction at the Bookfest 2022. Many people say that this book should become a movie, and Georgia is working on that project now, which I found out some good news about that. So we'll be talking about that. So let me get Georgia in here. Welcome, Georgia.
Hi, Miss Liz. Thanks for having me.
And it is a real pleasure to have you here. I got to meet you through your husband, Gerald, who was also on Tea Time. So
Right.
a real honor to have you here.
Thank you.
So, Gerald, Georgia, I want to go back into what I do with all of my guests. So, who was Georgia as a little girl, and who is Georgia now?
Oh, boy. Well, as a little girl, I was very shy. My mother was Catholic, my father Jewish. So half of me was guilty and the other half guilty. And they didn't get along. They split up. And I was kind of in the middle. And it was kind of difficult, truthfully, because I was the only child. And so I spent my younger years being very quiet, and I didn't really blossom till like 8th grade. And then all of a sudden I went to a new school. I suddenly got lots of friends, and I just started slowly coming out of myself. But what attracted me to acting was that I was so shy, and it was hard for me to do a presentation or talk normally in front of a lot of people. So I just started getting intrigued by the whole acting world. And that was a lot of fun for me, and also therapeutic. But I was also writing along the way. When I was a child, I was writing all the time too, memos, but I never thought of myself as a writer. In those days, that didn't appear on your radar as a possible option of something to do for a job, And anyway, so I had a dog when I was little. When my mother didn't like the dog, and she disappeared it, and it broke my heart. So I just kind of squashed down my feelings about animals for many years until 1997, when I saw a little dog and I fell in love with it. And then I adopted a dog. And that changed my whole life, because even though I was in the arts and everything, I stayed in the arts, but I became so in tune with animals and learning more about. And when I first got my dog, I didn't even know that there were so many thousands of rescue dogs who need homes, and they get killed every year. Because I bought mine. That'll be the last dog I ever buy, because my goodness, there's so many precious little things out there that need a home, And then I got involved with a group of animal activists, and we were trying to get Billy the elephant out of the Los Angeles Zoo. And through that, I met Joyce Poole, who is a world-renowned elephant communicator expert. And she has been studying elephant communication for 50 years. And I just became totally fascinated with elephants. And it was just something I just rose up in me, and it was very strong. And I just had to go to Africa. I had to be around these elephants. And then every time I went there, it just got more and more involved with it. And so that's led to where I am now, which is I moved there with my husband, Gerald, and our 2 little dogs in 2018. And I wanted to be around the elephants, but I couldn't get a work permit to do that year. So I was offered a job as environmental director for a rescue group of young women. And I learned from that of all the times I had been in Kenya, I had never been aware that there's this whole class of young women who get impregnated in high school. Many of them are raped, and it's just kind of, people look the other way because it's so common, and there's no birth control. And these girls then always quit school. They don't finish, and they have a responsibility for a baby. Sometimes they're shunned, sometimes they're not, but they're mostly rural and very, very poor. And I was amazed to find out that these girls had never even seen an elephant. And I thought that was so tragic, because here they live right near, one of the most beautiful animals in the world that people travel all the way around the world to see. And they haven't seen one because they can't afford to go to the park, and they never leave their one spot. They had never, ever eaten in a restaurant in their whole life. So it was my pleasure to be able to take them and show them their own country, and I showed them also movies about animals and wildlife conservation. I took them to the beach. We saw the turtles. There were monkeys all over the place. We went to see this monkey conservation center. And then on our big trip, I took them near to the big park, and they got to see, which they had never seen before, the elephants, giraffes, zebras. I mean, they had never seen them. It just blew my mind. Anyway, they were all happy, really happy. And especially when I taught them that the elephant herd is led by the strong mother elephant, the matriarch. And I told them that they will be matriarchs when they go back to their villages, and they'll be the one who knows all about the animals and the wildlife and how to protect them. And they really resonated with that. So that's how, when I moved to Africa, I was hoping I would find a way to help elephants. Okay, well, this is what I found. This is the way, because if we can educate, so I started an organization with 2 Kenyans over there, the guy that I worked with at the charity, plus another young woman that I became friends with. And it's called Elephant Matriarch Project. And it's geared to these young rural mothers. And it's going to be, we're going to evolve a conservation education center. So first of all, they're going to have some tutoring. They're going to learn English well, and they're going to get their high school diploma. But all along the way and beyond, they're going to be inundated with lessons about conservation, wildlife, ecology, helping the environment. And then that will lead to vocations for them, like being rangers, being eco farmers, being eco tour guides. There's a lot of different things that could open up for them. And right now, conservation is led by men, period, especially in Africa. So we need women in conservation, and these girls need a way of life that they can live without being stuck, in this little rural place and not knowing or seeing anything in their whole life except raising kids. So that's why I started this group, because I love the elephants. I want to help the elephants. These girls will be able to help them once they're empowered with the right information and training. So that's how it evolved, and that's where I'm at now. We just had our second fundraiser Saturday, and we were lucky because we were able to go on WhatsApp Zoom call and talk to the partners in Kenya. They came in to talk to the party goers. And then also I have a Kenya friend who lives not too far away from here. I just met her several years ago, and she got her friends to come. And they were all in the Maasai tribe, and they all dressed up in their Maasai outfits. And then I searched high and low. I could only find one Kenyan musician in all of Los Angeles, but he came, and it was great because he was playing Kenyan songs, and they were dancing and singing, and everybody had a great time. And I had a lot of volunteers that brought food, and we had a, art auction and things like that. And we're also trying to build up contact with a safari company so we can help them to get an inexpensive safari. So that's been taking up a lot of my time, along with, like you said, my book that came out. This is it, Terriers in the Jungle. And it's really the story of my trip to Africa when I lived there with my dogs and my husband, and where I found the girls. So, but it's all told from the point of view of the 2 dogs. And it's won 9 awards. So I'm very proud of that. And I think it's good for even like kids from, say, middle grade up through adult, because they like the things that the dogs are talking, but the dogs also, there are some heavy, items in there about conservation, poaching, and things like that, but it's kind of educational too. So,
and that's what I really like about what you're doing, because you're bringing the education, right? Because you mentioned something about they live right in a country and they didn't even know about the safaris and animals because they couldn't afford it, right?
Right.
And we have to sometimes go to a different country in order to bring the education. and open the eyes and say, look, you're right here. It's right in front of you. Let's get you educated. Let's get you acknowledging what's in your own land. And we do that even in our own countries, in Canada and United States, right? We have all these incredible things and organizations and projects going on that we don't even pay attention to because we're not educated. We don't have the knowledge about it. And that's what I really liked about this is when Gerald said, Liz, can you talk to my wife? And I said, absolutely, because I want to know more. I have an elephant in my tea room that's pointing to the door because they say that's apparently good luck. So, and there's so many meanings behind the elephant. And I want to get into the elephant communication.
Yes.
So how does that work?
Oh, well, elephants, their brain is 3 times larger than ours. They've been on Earth. They've been on Earth for 3 million years, longer than human beings.
Oh.
They have societies. They have communication with each other. I mean, they're very smart. They're unlike human beings. They take care of each other. They do not kill each other. They do not kill other animals. They mostly protect other animals. In fact, they're such an important part of the ecosystem that they help trees grow. Everywhere they walk, when they eat a lot, because they don't have good teeth. So they chomp on a lot of leaves all the time, and a lot of them pass through without being digested. And so everywhere they go, when they poop, they're pooping out seeds. So trees grow. And yes, and also with the forest elephants, when they go in the forest, they eat the smaller trees, and that allows the big trees to get even bigger, more carbon capture. And even when they step in the mud, their footprint is so big and so deep that it becomes an ecosystem for tadpoles and other little animals. I mean, I think they're the most amazing animal ever. And also they can remember every elephant they've ever met. They remember people. They have incredible brains. I mean, there was a story of a guy who was helping the elephants down in I don't know if it was South Africa or one of the southern countries. And he lived in this little house up on a hill, but he would go out and, if an elephant was in trouble, he would try to help. Well, when he passed away, the elephants all knew about it. And over a period of 3 days, 200 elephants went up to his cottage and they mourned him. They stayed there for a while and they mourned him. Yeah. And yes, they're very amazing, emotional, intelligent, smarter than we are, more connected to the earth, saviors of the earth. And here we are, human beings, still trophy hunting them. Some rich guys pay money to shoot these elephants. And other people shoot the elephants or kill them with arrows just because they think they're pests. And that's part of the problem why I'm working with these rural girls, because there's what they call human wildlife conflict. There's so many people, the population is exploding in Africa, and people are building their farms and homes right on the migratory routes of the animals. So the animal's in the park, and then he comes outside the park to find water or something, and there is a farm. So of course he just walks in the farm and he starts eating. And then for these uneducated people, they consider them to be pests, so they shoot them. And then the elephants attack back. So it's very dangerous for both humans and animals. So that's why we need to desperately help these underprivileged people to learn, to be educated about their own country's animals so they can protect them. These animals are dwindling every year. It breaks my heart. Do you know, in the last 50 years, we've lost 75% of wildlife. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
That is crazy. 75%. That's not even half. That's over half.
Yeah.
Wow. For the elephants, like, they're right in Africa, and the community doesn't even understand the value that they bring to their area. I'm so glad you went there. And you've been there 6 times. So each time you went, Georgia, did you learn a little bit more on the elephant?
Oh yeah, because every time I went, I was really fortunate that I had this job it was working for this little online magazine. But because of that, I was reviewing, I reviewed ecotourism and animal welfare and wildlife. So when I went there, I was treated to these wonderful safari trips all over because I was writing articles about them. And then I was also had open doors to interview these top conservationists in the country. And I was able to see a lot of the country. So I feel very fortunate that I've gotten to this position where I know more than most people do in our, in our world anyway, about Kenya and what's really the lay of the land there. I mean, not in all areas, but especially in the wildlife type things,
So, Georgia, let's get into your trip when you took the Terriers
Yeah.
and you wrote this book. How did that all come about?
Well, Gerald, we had been to, every time I went to Kenya, I was able to bring my husband. So we had a great time, So we went 2010, 11, 12. And in 2012, the poaching crisis hit. And everywhere we went, there were dead animals. And I couldn't take it. It was so depressing. So I didn't go back again until 2017 when it was under control. They had finally, and Kenya is one of the best countries in Africa as far as poaching, and they outlawed it completely. They were the first one. They had this huge, in the park, they brought all the elephant tusks, because when an elephant dies and then they catch the poachers with the tusks, and then they take the tusks, and then what do they do with them? They have them locked up somewhere. So my friend Winnie Carew, who now works with the government, she's a conservationist. She suggested and also organized that they would bring all the tusks to the Nairobi National Park, and they had this huge burning of the tusks, because in Southern Africa, they're still stealing the tusks and using the tusks and promoting the tusks. But here, no, we're showing that the tusk is not important. It's the elephant that's important.
Yeah.
The tusk, it's just, so they had a big burn, and I'm very proud of them as a country. But even with all that, they still have poaching. They still have to watch us inside the parks. They have several really big, beautiful national parks where you can go on safari, and those are guarded pretty well. But right around the edges of the parks where the animals go out, that's where they get killed, because it just takes so much manpower to watch every square acre, and there's a lot of poverty. That's another driving force is the poverty. And some poacher from some other country says, you just throw this arrow and then I'll pay you $50, and then they, it's horrible. It's horrible. But I mean, I don't even want to go to the southern states of that, even though they're beautiful. I know they're beautiful. I've seen pictures. I'd love to go to Zimbabwe, Botswana, but you know what? I can't take the idea of being there in that area, in that, field of, anyway. So that's why I love Kenya, and trying to help them to rise up even more, because they do have a lot of poverty there. And, when people are in poverty, sometimes they do things that they really wouldn't do otherwise.
Yeah. Well, that's it, right? It's survival.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's not even understanding how to survive. It's just being taught, right? Generations and generations. We just kill this animal for no reason. Well,
they kill it they kill it because they need the money or because they're eating it.
So they are eating the elephant.
Not so much. No, not in Kenya.
Oh.
I mean, you hear of a rare instance in a village in some other country doing it, but it's not common. No.
Oh, okay. I'm an animal lover, and I don't understand it. I know that we eat meat to survive, and that, but
we don't need meat to survive. It's shown now we don't.
Exactly, right? Where we can be vegetarian and that, and we don't eat the meat.
Right.
But it's generations that has taught us, right? That
yes, that's what we learn in school. The food groups. One of them, they have a cow in there. I mean, we don't think about it because it's put in our head when we're little. But if you can get beyond that and really look at the situation, how, 50,000 billion cows or something killed every day. It's just mind-boggling. It's just horrible. What kind of a race are we? We're murderers. I don't, it's astounding to me. And I really think we need more feminine energy in the conservation field,
Well, we need the feminine in a lot of areas in life, right? Because we need the female leader as well. It's like the elephant mother is the leader,
That's
So
right.
we have to take a look at how animals and wildlife are surviving and giving the message to the human being, right? Is look at a lot of animals. It's the mother that's leading the pack. It's not the father, it's the mother.
Right, right.
So I want to get into this book.
Can I
Terrier
just say one thing? Sorry. My name is pronounced Umano, Georgia
Mhm.
Umano.
Umano.
Yeah, because you were kind of off on that. So I just wanted to clarify. Sorry.
Well, no, that's okay. Because I like when people let me know that if it's just pronounced, right? Because that's how I learn as well. So thank you for that, Georgia.
Sure.
I want to get into the Terriers in the Jungle, the two dogs, because
Yes.
I listened to the podcast that you and Gerald did together last night, and I was like, oh, that's a really interesting story. So let's get into the two dogs, because you adopted these dogs, and
Yes, they're both rescues, and they're both, in fact, Romeo. First, I had Roxy with another dog that was my first dog, and he passed away. She was a rescue, and that's even with the rescues. It's so amazing. I mean, we're all learning, I guess, as we go. But you think we would be farther along by now. But I rescued her from a shelter. And she was so depressed, and I couldn't figure out why. And I tried to give her a name, and she didn't respond. And then finally, I just started calling her different names. And when I said Roxy, she went, huh? So I knew that was her name. And I said, she must have had another home. And nobody told me anything about it. So I called the shelter. She was running the streets with her twin brother, Rex. And when they brought him to the shelter, they put him in different places, gave him different names, and they were both depressed. And then I was going to try to adopt Rex, but he was already adopted by somebody else. So it took her a while, to come back to being happy. And then when I got Romeo, when my other dog passed away, I got Romeo. He was a stray dog who had 2 broken legs as a puppy. I don't even know how he survived. And he was put in a shelter, a high kill shelter, and they were going to euthanize him because of his legs. And he was on the way to the euthanasia when he was rescued by this wonderful rescue group. And they took him to a vet, and they wanted to cut his legs off. And she said, no. And she said, just put steel plates in the legs. And that's what they did. And he's fine. I mean, you wouldn't even know that when I first got him, he limped, but now he doesn't limp. And he's very, very sweet and feisty, wonderful dog. So when we decided to move to Africa, we didn't know how long we were going to be there. We weren't sure what it was really going to be like to actually live there. So we couldn't leave our dogs behind, So we had to, and the dogs, I had been training them anyway. So they were close to being, I made them into service dogs because I had a little hearing thing going on. So I was able to get my foot in the door and get them really well trained. And so we were able to take them on the airplanes and everything. And, but it was a big adventure for them. And they met so much wildlife. I mean, from the very first day we got to Kenya, we were in this beach area, and we were all like kind of prancing down the beach. And Roxy runs up straight ahead, and she bumps into something, and it turns out it's this big camel that's sitting on the, and she was like next to his face, and she's like this small, and he's like this. There's his mouth, right? So it was funny. And then Romeo comes running up, and so then it turns out there was a guy sitting there, a Kenyan guy. He says, "Oh, don't worry, that's Obama." They named him Obama, the camel, because they love Obama over there. So a lot of things are named Obama. He said, "Oh, that's Obama. He won't hurt the dog," So anyway, I thought that was so cute. So of course I put it in the book. And the book, it's written in Romeo's perspective, Romeo and Roxy, and they talk to each other. So, and this is like, because I'm so close to them, sometimes I feel like I know what they're thinking and saying. So he says to her, Roxy, were you scared? And she said, no, I could smell the grasses on his breath. I knew he must be a vegetarian.
I found some good news about the book. It's in the 2023 23rd Film Fest in Beverly Hills.
It was. Yeah, it was a fine. I wrote the screenplay, and it was picked as a official selection in the Beverly Hills. And I was like floored because it was like the first draft of the screenplay, and it didn't win any awards beyond that. But it was a very privilege to be there and to be a selected thing. And since then, that was over a year ago, like maybe a year and a half. I've been, working with different writing groups and consultations and different people, and they getting feedback on the screenplay and rewriting it, parts of it over and over, because you can write whichever you want in a novel, but in a screenplay, if you want it to go anywhere, you have to get other people to like it enough to put money into it in order to make it a movie. So that's much more demanding, and also the structure of a screenplay is much more demanding than a novel. You can pretty much do whatever you want. In a screenplay, they're looking for the 3-act structure. They're looking for this, they're looking for that. And I've rewritten this thing 20 times. And I thought in my mind, it's going to be the first conservation movie for the whole family. Because usually if you want to see a movie about conservation, it's a documentary, and they're usually pretty serious. So this would be not a documentary, a story, but will have lots of conservation themes in it, but it will also have the talking dogs. So that way I thought it would appeal to the whole family. And I love it. I love it the way I wrote it. Then I developed songs for the dogs to sing and everything. And people have trouble every time I show it to somebody in Hollywood. They have trouble wrapping their mind around it. Where's it the dog or where's it the lady? And so, so I'm actually on the verge of attempting another different draft, which is going to be taking out the talking. And this one producer I talked to, he said, take out the singing and dancing because it's going to make it so expensive and on top of everything else. And also just take out one dog and make it focus a little more on the woman, because I created a woman. I mean, she's loosely based on me, but it's a different story and everything. So so that's what I'm going to try and just see what kind of reactions, because I have gotten some awards with it already, but not high enough that it's going to be noticed that much. So I have a strong will about this. I really want to get a movie made. And I've written other movies too, but I sort of gave up several years ago because it's so hard. You have to meet the right people. You have to get the money. It's just, unless somebody just really loves it, it's a long haul, Yeah. So anyway, that's what I'm doing. Besides the charity, I really want to get a movie made. So I'm working on that.
Well, I think it'll happen, and I'm glad that you're mentioning all this, because a lot of people, they think, oh, making a movie is so easy. Well, there's a lot of steps that people don't see that you have to do, right? You have to know the right people. You have to have the money. You have to have the funding, the acting, the actor, and if you're using animals, you have to get the right animal to do this and all of that stuff. So there's a lot of different stages behind making a movie. It's easy for us to go watch a 1 hour, 2 hour movie, but there's a lot of things that are not being seen, right? The back behind it. It's like the iceberg, right? You see all the success, but you don't see all the hard work behind it, right? All the late nights and rewriting the screenplay.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. Like an iceberg.
So, Georgia, you got into comedy. What was it about comedy?
I don't know. I guess I always had a sense of humor, but I enjoyed making people laugh, and I was also part of my inner journey of coming out of myself, because like I said, I was very repressed as a child. And it's thrilling when you get up there and say something and people laugh, and deliberately, So I had fun doing that and writing the jokes. And So yeah, I did that for a while. And but then, you know, it's hard. And there was a heyday of comedy back a couple decades ago, when there were a lot of comedians on the road and women, but then it kind of died down. And by the time I got into it, I went on the road a bit, you know, like I played in different states, but it was hard. You know, it was because my comedy was a little more intellectual, and then I would get a job in some bar in Augusta, Georgia, or something, and be full of these guys who were drunk, and they just wanted to hear dirty jokes, basically. You know, I mean, I would go up and tell my stories, and I didn't get much laugh. And then this next woman would get up, and I swear I had heard most of her jokes before. They're like typical dirty jokes about prostitutes and stuff. And she would just say those jokes, and they were rolling in the aisles. And that's what they wanted. So I didn't want to do that. You know, that's not why I got into it.
So how old were you when you got into acting?
Oh gosh, I don't remember. I really don't. I'd rather not talk about age.
So let's get back into the jungle. How did you get the title for your book?
I don't know. Just thought it was a good title. I mean, Terriers. I don't know why. It just, you know, because it's about their experiences in Africa. So, and they're terriers you don't usually see. In fact, when we were there, I people would come up to me when we lived in Nairobi for a while, the big city. People would stop their cars. I'd be walking my dogs. They'd say, "How much do you want for them?" I'd say, "They're not for sale." "Well, how much are their babies?" I say, they're pets. They're not for sale." "You mean you're not selling them, and you're not selling their babies? You're just parading them around?" I said, "Yeah." So then he was like mad, you know, and that happened more than once. And then when I was living in the poorer community, they'd say, "Oh, give me one." I say, "Why should I give you one?" "Oh, because you have two." You know. So I had to be very careful. I never left them anywhere. You know, I had been planning to do a little bit more, you know, in-house and around traveling, but it was difficult with them. People were not used to seeing them. Most of the dogs that we saw there were big dogs, and they were used for security. They kept outside. A lot of them stayed in a cage all day, and at night they went to guard the house, and they were thrown scraps, and that was their life. So I was terrified somebody was going to steal my dogs. So I had to stick close, but I stick close to them anyway. But I wouldn't let, you know, it wasn't until we almost were ready to go home. We trusted this one guy that worked at our hotel. So we went out a few times without the dogs, but otherwise I wouldn't leave them, you know.
Well,
Or if I went to work with the girls, then they'd stay with Gerald, you know.
and in the interview that you and Gerald did together, I heard that there was a lot of shots, a lot of vaccines that the dogs had to take.
That was another thing. Rabies shots, constant rabies shots, which, you know, I mean, I know, and most of the dogs there don't have rabies shots. That's the scary part. And so, and then we were told, you know, parasites. Well, they took all the rabies shots. They ended up getting the parasites. When we came back to the States, they were both sick. And one of them, Roxy, she couldn't control her mouth. It would go like that, and drool would come out. And I took her to so many doctors and animal hospitals, and they'd say, "I don't know what's wrong with her." Even these specialists said, "Well," I said, "we just got back from Africa." They'd say, "Oh, I don't know anything about Africa." Finally, found a doctor that was recommended. He specializes in unusual cases. He sent their blood to UC Davis, which does agricultural studies. They discovered that they had a dung beetle parasite, which they were the first American dogs to ever be recorded to have dung beetle parasite. And in order to get over the dung beetle parasite, they had to be injected with pesticides for 6 weeks. Wow. And that was awful too. And And then, my little Roxy, again, she's had so many things. She got cancer after that from all the pesticides, but that she overcame both of those things. And also they said she still has a little aneurysm on her heart because of the pesticide was nested there. And so I said, oh my God, what can I do? They said, there's nothing you can do about it. They said, she may not make it. She may, or she could live a long life. We don't know. She said, just let her have a regular life, So she does. She has a regular life, but when it's hot out, I noticed that she really doesn't tolerate the heat that much. So whenever she starts panting, we rest under a tree, and she always gets lots of water, and she's fine. I mean, we got back. I mean, we've been back for 4 years. So she's been, fine. And she bounces back. So thank goodness.
So do you have any plans of going back to Kenya?
Hopefully, yes. But I'm sort of holding off until we raise enough money to at least start or get in process the first building that we want to build. We were donated 5 acres of land in this rural town. It's right outside of Tsavo National Park, which is the largest park, and it's where they have human-wildlife conflict. And she's from that city. Rosie, this woman I befriended when we lived there, and she's one of the partners, and she got her grandfather to donate 5 acres of land where we're going to build these buildings. And so the first step is getting enough money to put up the structure, and the first structure is going to be like a community center with classroom, because we need to let the whole village get involved with this project so they accept it, they understand it, and they want the girls to go there and encourage the girls. And then maybe we could start a couple of classes. Meanwhile, hopefully, I'm hoping that once we get something on the ground, it'll be easier to connect with these bigger like elephant conservation organizations and other animal organizations who might help us, because we want to build a really beautiful big building that will have different classrooms, and we want to have a big vegan kitchen there and lots of different things. So it's going to be, we have to, and I'm not a fundraiser, truthfully. I've never done this before, so I find it kind of a burden. I'm trying to find partners or people that'll help, because I think people hear it, they say it's a great project. And in my mind, it could, if it's successful, it could become a role model for other communities to do, because it just breaks my heart when I think of all these innocent girls stuck and then the elephants, getting killed, and they could become a whole league of elephant protectors, So I'm hoping that it will grow, but right now it's kind of hard because like I said, I'm not a fundraiser. I need help. If anybody out there would like to become part of our group, and especially if you know something about fundraising, please contact me, contact us, and join us, because it's going to be a wonderful. And then part of the project is we're going to enlist other conservationists and people from around the world. I mean, so in other words, if you work in any area of conservation or something that we deem would be helpful to these girls, you can come to Kenya have a little safari, and for part of your trip, you come and stay at the Elephant Matriarch Project, and you'll be able to actually interact with the girls and teach them some of your expertise that will help them on their journey. And I think that would be an exciting project for a lot of people. A lot of people have said they would love to do that, and they have something to offer. And that's what we're hoping to get more and more people involved. But it's the starting up point right now that's so difficult, of just getting the first thing going so people see that it's really happening and they're believing it enough to join it, enough to donate money to it. And so for all of your wonderful listeners, please consider a donation and send me a letter to, if you want to be part of it, or a message, and we would welcome you, with open arms.
So if anybody wanted to know more, I just put the website up as well. They can go and check that out as well, make donations on that website, correct?
Yes.
So we have a question here for you, Georgia. Is there a location for the girls at this time?
You mean, oh, well, the girls, the starting project is in this town called Kajiri,
Okay.
which is, it's about 18 miles from the border of Tsavo National Park, Tsavo East, the largest park, one of the largest parks in Africa. Lots of animals, thousands and thousands of elephants. So in this town, that's where we have the 5 acres of land donated. And it's a place where we really need something like this because they do have human wildlife conflict. So that's where it is. It's called Kajiri, a small town.
I'm just looking. The purpose and object of the program is educational, practical outreach to the entire community with a special emphasis on building leadership among the large population of young, undereducated mothers and children who reside in the rural area of Kenya. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about that, Georgia?
Well, yeah, I mean, I thought that's what I was talking about. I'm not sure what aspect of it you want me to talk about. I mean, the girls that live there now, there's already thousands of girls that live there, and they don't have a job, and you know they quit school. So that's what we're talking about. They're undereducated, and they don't know anything about even though the wildlife, the only thing they know about it is that it's scary. When they come out of the park, they're terrified, and they don't know how to protect themselves. They don't know, you know, the value of the wildlife. They just see them as pests. So we need to educate the whole village, and we want the girls to become leaders in the village and beyond, you know, once they understand, you know, the ecosystem and everything.
And what are the ages of the girls that you're working with?
Well, the ones I worked with when I was living there were anything from 15 to 24.
Wow. Wow. So I'm just looking a little bit over the website here really quickly. Can you tell me a little bit about the other co-founders that are in Kenya? I believe they live in Kenya, correct?
Yes, yes. There's Hari Rama. He was the director of the girls rescue group where I worked when I lived there. It was called Africa Girls, and it was specifically for these young girls who had babies, and their family was too poor to take them, you know, to accept them and their babies, or their family was too mad at them to keep them, or maybe they were even abducted by a member of their family, or in one case, she was raped by a government official and she was hiding. So, you know, there's all kind of cases there. And though they were rescued because they had nowhere to go. And so it was a rescue group. But these girls exist in all the villages in Kenya and in many countries in Kenya. I mean, let's say, as far as I know, and I'm certainly not an expert in any other country, but from what I've heard and read, the women in Kenya, you know, they're up the top as far as the way women go in Africa in general. I mean, there are many exceptions, and in the big cities, of course, it's a little bit different. It's the rural area girls that really have it bad.
So right in like the poverty areas, like where the poorer areas have it really bad?
Yeah, which is pretty much all the rural areas.
Wow.
You know, I mean, I was amazed when I saw the places that they live even. I mean, they're just very makeshift, and they've been there for generations that way.
And the other co-founder of the project is Rosalind.
Yes, Rosalind and I met on my trip before the trip that we moved there. She was working in a conservation lodge, and we just hit it off, and we just stayed friends. And she's the one that introduced me to Hari. And then as time went on, I found out we both loved elephants. And she told me that because she grew up in that town, and her grandfather had land there, and her grandfather told them that a lot of people didn't like the elephants, but he told her that they were part of our family, and we have to take care of them, that they're not there to hurt us. We have to learn how to make peace with them. And so that she always grew up loving elephants and considering them part of her family, which was unusual.
Well, and in your bio, you said as a young girl, you experienced a vivid past life. So let's talk about that past life and the elephants.
Okay, well, it wasn't really too young of a girl. I was already an adult, but a young adult. I came out to California, and I guess I came out here in it was before I came out. It was around the certain time I came out, about 82. I had, my friend, I used to live in New York also, and my friend in New York was studying NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, which is a kind of a light hypnosis where you help kind of heal yourself. I don't know. Anyway, so I was a little bit interested in it through my friend, and I had an accident when I was out here. I fell through a little stairwell and my leg was dangling down, and I, my friend screamed that was with me. She saw me fall. And then after that, I tried to get healed, and I did whatever I did for that, but the pain wouldn't go away in my back. So I went to see this guy. He was advertised as an NLP practitioner, hypnotist, plus he did body work. So I thought maybe he could help me with this lingering pain from the fall. And he did. I mean, he was great. He told me to relax, and he took me back. He told me to go back in time in my mind to the moment when I had the accident. And I described it, and he says, okay, tell me exactly what happened. And I told him about how my leg fell through, and my friend screamed, and he said, he says, what happened is you took her scream into your body. So he says, we have to go back and tell her that you're okay. So we went back, he put me in this relaxed state, and we went back to the moment. And then he said, okay, now you hear her saying that. And so he says, now tell her it's not that bad. It's okay. And I did. Pain went away.
Wow.
I know. It was incredible. So I love this guy. I thought, wow, he knows how to do something, So a few months later, I went back again, and I had another issue, but it was more of a boyfriend type of issue. It was before I was married. And so he said, okay. He says, I'm going to get you relaxed, and we're going to go back in time to the first year when you had this type of problem with men. Okay. So he gets me relaxed. He puts me in the chair and tells me the things to make you relax. And he says, now I'm going to take you back in time. And when I get to the year in your life, when this first happened, your little pinky will pop up. He says, you're not going to make it pop up. It's just going to pop up by itself.
Wow.
So I said, okay. So he took me back through the years, 30s, 20, 22, 21, 19, 18. We're down. Nothing, 10, 9, 8, nothing, 3, 2, 1, nothing. Then he says 0. When he said 0, my finger jumped up. I didn't make it jump up. I jumped up. I saw this most vivid thing it was in the room right there. I was running through a jungle, and I was running away from a poacher who had killed my mother. And I was running and running and running. And I saw this herd of elephants on the other side of the room, and they were waving to me, and I went and joined them, and they had stayed with them. And that was way before I even had my dog, before I thought about elephants in any way. It just came out of nowhere.
Wow. Interesting, eh?
Yeah. So at first I thought it was interesting. I didn't know what to make of it. I talked about it a little bit, and then I kind of put it aside, kept living my life. And then behold, 15 years later, I get my dog, and then I get involved with the elephant activists. And then I go to Kenya, and then everything starts clicking in my mind about this thing here, So I always kept looking around and see if I could see a place in Kenya that looked similar to my vision. And I had already been there like 3 times, and I didn't see it. But then next time I saw that what I thought looked very much like it. So it was in Kenya. Yeah. And here I am, Kenya, elephants.
So, Georgia, what message would you like to everybody to know about elephants out there?
We have to protect them. Don't put them in zoos. Elephants don't live in zoos. They die in zoos. That's what I was first protesting. We put these elephants in the zoos, and elephants' feet are soft. They're made to walk on the earth for hundreds of miles, and they're stuck in these little cement cages, and they can't move. They're a very social animal. They know hundreds of other elephants. They communicate. We stick them by themselves. They're so depressed. They die of arthritis and depression. And it's just, we're so stupid sometimes as a race. What we're doing we just don't consider that other beings on this earth have feelings and intelligence and lives and families. We just do whatever we want to do with them. And it's just not right. It's just not right. And especially elephants. Elephants are magnificent. Elephants are smarter than we are. They live peacefully in families. They walk hundreds of miles. They know, and they talk to each other. I don't know what to say. It just, we just are out of touch with it. We don't live around elephants. We've never seen an elephant except in a zoo usually. And same with the other wildlife. When you see these lions in a cage and they're pacing back and forth, the poor things. That's not who they are. So I just want human beings to wake up and see that we share this earth and we're killing the earth. But when we kill the animals, when we raise all these cows, we're killing the regular fauna and flora. We're just doing it so we could feed the cows. It's not right. It's not right. So anyway, that's how I feel. And I really think we have to protect animals, and especially elephants, because they are the crowning glory of the animals as far as I'm concerned.
So, Georgia, if anybody wanted to reach out to you, how could they find you?
I'm on Facebook, Georja Umano. I'm also on my website. You'll find my phone number. You can send me a text. I think there's an email address there too, but it's more connected to my email is, you could see my name if you see my name under there, Georja Umano, Georgia with a J, Georja, Umano with a U, Umano. At georgia.umano@gmail. That's my email address. I would welcome anybody who's interested in this to, get in touch with me, because I say we're a new organization. We need help. We definitely need donors, and we need people who might have some experience in this kind of area. There's people in this is one of those villages that doesn't even have water. They collect water in buckets, and when there's a drought, it's the women who have to go miles away and carry the water on their heads, etc. So we're going to need to put boreholes in there. Some people work with people. There's just so many different phases where we could use almost anybody's help, if you're good at anything. And if you've never been to Kenya, I highly recommend you go to Kenya. We're also going to be facilitating some safari trips there, inexpensive, because we have some safari people who want to help our charity. And so you can contact me about that if you want more information. If you want to know how you can help, if you can donate any amount of money, would be most grateful, because right now we're still at the beginning. We don't have anything. We have the acreage, we have the will of the people, but we don't have the money to put the building up, even though making a building in Kenya is a lot less expensive than in the United States, say. But still, it's going to be, like at least $50,000. That's our first goal. So if you can help in any way, we will love you forever. And you can be part of our herd and be on our list. And we'll let you know when we have a safari or some kind of great event. Like yesterday, we had Sunday, we had an event here in Los Angeles at this beautiful house, one of the animal activists. And we had the local Kenyans came, and there's a great musician that lives here, and they sang and danced, and we talked to our partners in Kenya on WhatsApp. Everybody got to meet them, and we had auctions, and it was really a lot of fun. So, any ways we can think of to raise more money and have more camaraderie, more supporters. If you want, we're going to be collecting books to send over there for the kids and the young mothers, that are things that are, in English, but not real complicated, because even the girls, they went to school, but they dropped out, and they're going to have to study more English. So anything like, especially animal related, would be good. So, I mean, there's all kinds of ways that you could help. And we'd love to hear from you if this moves you,
And George, if anybody wanted the book, where can they find your book?
The book is on Amazon, and it's on Barnes and Noble and some bookstores, if you have, Terriers in the Jungle. Yeah, it's most people like it. I like it. I hope I can get the screenplay made, but
Well, we're going to keep our fingers crossed for that. I think you'll get it.
Thank you.
I really had a pleasure talking with you today and learning about the elephants. It was a real pleasure. Again, thank you so much for all the stuff that you're doing. And it's an honor to meet you through your husband. I love the little connection, and keep doing what you're doing. And if you need anything at all, I'm just a cup of tea away. So I really appreciate you sitting and having tea with me. And your tea was amazing, because your tea was treasure every animal. So let's keep treasuring those animals and getting educated on them, on not having them as pests, but having them as a difference in the world as well. They're here for a reason. So let's respect them as well. So thank you again, Georgia, for joining me. And I will see everybody again tomorrow afternoon with Diane Batter, who is from Canada, and she'll be speaking about her book, Written in Stone, and she'll be joining me. And then Thursday, we have husband and wife, Elizabeth and Freddie, that are coming in with intimacy. And then we have Erica coming in, and she'll be talking about mental health and the fragrance of creating a platform through her story in that. So we have some incredible stories coming up. Be sure to check that out. Check out Miss Liz's YouTube channel. Check out Miss Liz's website, www.misslizsteatime. You can see all these incredible interviews there and all the other work that Miss Liz does. Again, thank you so much, Georgia, for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
And let's just keep spilling a good, strong cup of tea through education, of teaching educational awareness. Thank you so much for joining me.